We all know someone who just has to control every situation. That friend who completely overhauls your plans without asking. The partner who needs to know where you are 24/7. Or the family member whose helpful advice feels a lot more like a demand. It's frustrating, and it can seriously damage our relationships and our own sense of self. But what if I told you that for many of these people, this isn't about a conscious choice to dominate you? What if it's a deeply ingrained survival mechanism, born from a trauma they might not even fully remember? Today, we're exploring the hidden wound that can create a controlling person and how understanding the why behind it all can be the first step toward healing for everyone involved. When we hear controlling, our minds often jump to a cartoonish villain, the loud, domineering boss, or the openly aggressive partner. And sure, those count. But a lot of the time, controlling behavior is way more subtle, and it can even be disguised as love or care. It can look like constant criticism dressed up as constructive feedback, slowly chipping away at your self-esteem. It might be a partner who insists on checking your phone, not out of malice, but out of a desperate fear for your safety or their own insecurity. It can show up as extreme jealousy, where any conversation you have with someone else feels like a threat to the relationship. Think about the friend who plans every single detail of a group trip without asking for input, leaving zero room for what anyone else wants. Or the parent who relentlessly questions their adult child's life choices, career, partner, spending habits, not to be mean, but because they truly believe they know best and are just trying to stop them from messing up. This can even stretch to financial control, where one partner limits the other's access to money, making them totally dependent and unable to leave. These behaviors, whether they're loud and demanding or quiet and manipulative, all come from the same place. A desperate need to manage the outside world to calm an inner storm. They're tactics to create stability and predictability when, deep down, the person feels completely out of control. The problem is, this behavior creates a massive power imbalance and ends up destroying the trust and respect that are the foundation of any healthy relationship. So where does this overwhelming need for control come from? For a huge number of people, the seeds were planted in childhood through experiences that were scary, chaotic, or emotionally empty. To get this, you have to understand how a kid's brain develops. A child needs a predictable, safe, and loving environment to build a stable sense of self and to believe that the world is a fundamentally okay place. But when trauma blows up that environment, it also disrupts the brain's development. I'm talking about adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs. A groundbreaking study by the CDC and Kaiser Permanente found 10 types of childhood trauma, like abuse, neglect, and household chaos, such as watching domestic violence or living with a parent struggling with addiction. Study after study shows that the more ACEs someone has, the higher their risk for all sorts of problems later in life. And one of those problems is a major difficulty with managing emotions and impulses. Imagine a kid growing up in a home where a parent's mood is a total crapshoot. One minute they're loving, the next they're angry, neglectful, or just gone. The child's world feels like walking on eggshells. There's no consistency, no safety. Their nervous system, which is designed to react to threats, gets stuck in the on position. This isn't just a feeling, it physically changes the developing brain, especially in the parts that handle decision-making and fear, like the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala. The brain basically gets frozen in survival mode. Now, fast forward to adulthood. That kid is now a grown-up, but they're carrying a nervous system that's wired to see danger everywhere. Their inner world is on constant high alert. And if your insides feel like chaos, the only logical thing to do is to rigidly control your outside world. Controlling people, planning everything, and telling others what to do becomes a desperate, often unconscious, attempt to create the safety they never had. It's not about power for power's sake. It's a survival strategy that's long past its expiration date. This trauma-based need for control isn't just some vague feeling. It works through specific psychological channels we can actually pinpoint. First up, attachment styles. Our early life shapes how we connect with people. A kid with caring, reliable parents develops a secure attachment. They grow up believing they're worthy of love and that others can be trusted. But trauma often leads to insecure attachment. Someone with an anxious attachment style, for instance, lives with a deep, nagging fear of being abandoned. They might become controlling in a relationship to keep their partner close, constantly needing reassurance and tracking their behavior to avoid the pain of being left. Second is the hit to their self-worth. Childhood trauma, especially emotional neglect or verbal abuse, can install a core belief that you are fundamentally flawed or not good enough. This creates crushing insecurity. For someone with this wound, controlling others can be a twisted way to feel competent and valuable. If they can fix someone else's life or manage a situation perfectly, it's a temporary patch for their own feelings of worthlessness. Criticizing a partner can even be a projection of their own self-hatred, a way to feel superior for just a moment. Finally, trauma can mess up a person's ability to understand and respect boundaries. For a child whose personal space, physical or emotional, was constantly invaded, the whole concept of personal autonomy can get blurry. As adults, they might not even realize that their intrusive questions, unsolicited advice, or monitoring of a partner's life are huge boundary violations because their own were crossed so often. They may feel entitled to every part of their partner's life because in their mind, that's what connection is supposed to feel like. And this is where the real tragedy of it all comes in. The controlling behavior is born from a desperate need to prevent loss and to feel connected. It's a frantic attempt to hold people tight, to make sure they don't leave, to make the world feel safe enough for a relationship to actually work. But the tragic irony is that controlling behavior is the very thing that guarantees the exact outcome it's trying to stop. Nobody wants to feel suffocated, criticized, or distrusted. Being on the receiving end of control is exhausting. It makes you feel small, incompetent, and resentful. Over time, it forces the other person to pull away, to create distance just to be able to breathe and feel like themselves again. The controlling person's biggest fear, abandonment, is literally caused by their own coping mechanism. And it's important to recognize the profound pain of the person doing the controlling. Living in a constant state of anxiety is a special kind of hell. Imagine never being able to relax, always scanning the horizon for the next threat, believing that if you let your guard down for 1 second, it will all fall apart. These individuals are often deeply lonely, unable to form the genuine, trusting connections they want because their fear won't let them. Their attempts to build a safe fortress only end up creating a prison. So, what do we do with all this? First, let's be crystal clear about something. Understanding the trauma is not an excuse for the behavior. It doesn't mean you have to put up with being controlled. But it does give us a much better place to start from. If you're in a relationship with someone who is controlling, seeing their behavior as a trauma response can help you stop taking it so personally. Their need to control you isn't really about you at all. It's about their own fear. With that knowledge, you can approach the situation not with anger, but with compassionate firmness. The most powerful tool you have is setting and holding healthy boundaries. This sounds like, I love you. Pursue. You can. The most powerful tool som jag tror inte hon gör för det skulle really content jag kom. You call him take caretakers that I say I can't take tips. Huh? Fighter got to this. I told you to go about it. Can't you tell her or did it in the go? You don't want these funny kind of. I was tired there, you see. Did you I told them go to my feenie, just not a bad person yourself. The most important thing to hear is this. You are not a bad person. You always the most of me. So, don't you need to show. Here's so I know that you work to know it. So the first thing turn. I don't need to go to bone to person to be there's This about learning to build safety inside yourself. This often requires the help of a therapist who gets trauma. It means learning to soothe your own anxiety, to challenge the belief that you're unsafe, and to slowly, gently learn to trust yourself and others again. Healing doesn't come from managing the world around you. It comes from healing the part of you that was made to feel so unsafe in the first place. If any of this sounds familiar, whether you've been on the giving or receiving end, please share your experience in the comments. Reading each other's stories is a powerful reminder that none of us are alone in these struggles. And if you found this video helpful, please give it a like and subscribe for more content that untangles the psychology of our relationships and our own healing. At the end of the day, controlling behavior is a tragic expression of deep pain. It's a misguided, desperate attempt to find safety in a world that once felt terrifyingly unsafe. It's a trauma response, not a character flaw. By bringing compassion and understanding to the root cause, we can begin to untangle these painful patterns. We can learn to set the boundaries that protect our own peace. And for those who struggle with this, we can begin the brave journey toward finding true, lasting safety, not by controlling the world around them, but by healing the world around them, but by healing the world within.